Okay, away we go. So what I'm going to do, as I said, I'm going to share my screen now. We're going to go through all of the little bits and pieces in Training Peaks, because the amount of people that send me not great data is it's not annoying. It's just that you guys need to know that because I'm now going to be coaching you guys a lot more remotely, I won't get a chance to see you. I need to rely on the data that you guys send back. And it's only that I know the training and the places that you're going and what you're doing when I have a look at the files that I know that a lot of the stuff is incorrect. So I've gone through and I've been slowly, as I've been having the Skype calls or the Zoom calls with people that are on program and going through everything. And as you know, I've been changing your programs as we go. What I'm going to do is go through and show you guys what you need to make sure you have set up properly. Performance management chart, training stress scores, and what it all means so that you guys get a better understanding of your own training. Alrighty, so without further ado, let me share my screen. Now this is a good article that I will cut and paste and share with you guys later. But for now, we're going to use Laura and Sal's training programs later. What we'll do for the very simple stuff is we'll use mine. Alrighty. And I will just move you guys over there. Now, the most important thing, this is the calendar view, which is default, which is what 90% of you guys know and use. But we're going to go in here. And so this is my profile. The most important thing for you guys to make sure that you do, which seriously half of you don't do, is make sure you're on Australia and your current time. So I've now changed mine to Perth GMT +8. If you find workouts are disappearing, loading into different days, that sort of thing, that'll generally be why. Okay, you'll be in Denver, Colorado. I think it defaults to Denver because the Training Peaks company is from there. And then you make sure all your other settings through here are correct. Always have your notifications turned on across all three. Realistically, email is the only one you need, but turn them all on. That's absolutely fine. If you are on a basic plan and not a premium plan, some of this stuff today you might not see, which is why I'm sharing my account and Laura's and Sal's. They're all on premium accounts. And so you'll be able to see, if you're on a basic account, this is stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to see. Just on a small note with basic versus premium, if you are training with a power meter, having a premium account is pretty much necessary, vital. And I'll show you why later on with some of the charts and some of the things that we're working on. It's, I think, $100. If you need a code, just ask me and I've got a code for 15% off, or you could join your national triathlon body and you'll get a code from them. Cool, so that's everything on that page. The most important place to update is your zones, heart rate zones. Always use, and these are the ones that you always want to use. So these are my zones, cool, and they're pretty accurate. You'll always want to use lactate threshold. And you always want to use, it won't let me do it until I choose this, Joe Friel for 7. Okay, the only reason being is I find his to be the most consistent across the board. The other ones do have merit. I'll show you the run one later on. My run heart rate, it's basically exactly the same. I don't bother doing bike and run heart rate zones. You can if you want to. It's just more stuff for you to update. And I don't really think it's that necessary. What we're particularly after is making sure that the threshold heart rate values are pretty much accurate. Okay. Power, always update that. Cool. When you're on Zwift, just go with the Zwift one. The reason being is most of you, 90% of you, will actually have a higher FTP. So mine's 238 at the moment, and seriously struggling to hold that some days with everything that's going on. If I'm out on the road or if I'm training for a half Ironman or whatever, I'll go 15 above that. Just as a little thing for you guys to know, because outside power is always significantly easier to hold than inside power. But because I'm doing everything on the trainer at the moment, that's where I'm going to leave it at. And then my speed pace zones, 407. Now, recently, I've manually changed that because I haven't done a hard run in a long time. I ran a 39, 40, 10K with Britt and Sal about maybe 6 months ago. So realistically, it should be 359, 358, but I've manually changed it because there's no way if I went and did a 10K race tomorrow, I wouldn't be at that pace anymore. Cool. So it's important that you keep those up to date yourself based on where your current fitness and training is at. Changing and keeping your zones accurate is one of the most crucial things with your scoring. Alrighty. Then down the bottom, always make sure these are ticked. I'll make sure they're ticked if you're on program anyway, because they will notify you and me of any significant changes that need to be addressed. Okay. So that's that. I'm just going to change the view to see if there's any questions. Have we got any questions in the chat box? Yes, there are. Chat 2. I don't remember if I'm on premium, but if I pay each year, can I assume I am, from Frankie? It'll tell you. I can tell you right now whilst I've got you. So it will say down here, Frankie, you are. So there, see, account type, premium, self-paid, Francoise. So you are on premium. You should be able to see everything. Laura, thank you. Yes, there is lots of red in my program. Yes. Yes, you will see a lot of red in my program. My program is essentially the squad program. So I just use my program as a dumping ground for the 15 different workouts that you see. So I'm not a good person to say, but I will show you one of the good things about my program in a minute. Nicole, should I change to my ramp test FTP in here? Yes. Yes, you absolutely should, Nick. And the reason being is that we're coming into winter, and you, like most people, are probably going to do the Tuesday, Thursday Swift sessions with me. So yes, you'll find that your outside FTP and your inside FTP are going to be 10 watts difference. So we are essentially splitting hairs, but you take the inside FTP just because it's more accurate, because you're going to be doing FTP work on the trainer. Does that make sense? Yeah, 3 points. So yeah, there you go. Okay, let's push on. So I'm just going to change that view to that and that. There we go. I'll just stack you guys there. Now, to the most, I've got a whole bunch of notes over here. So just bear with me if I'm looking a bit off screen. I want to make sure I get through everything. The most powerful part of Training Peaks is in the dashboard. Alrighty. And we'll use my dashboard because I know it's accurate. So that's the first reason we're going to use mine. Sally shot me an email through the week that had a great question, and it is, what charts should you have up so that you're looking at what I'm looking at, or essentially what are the best charts? So here they are, and if you are following along at home, this is the order that you want to have them in. The performance management chart, the PMC, is the most powerful chart in the game. This is where all of your scores for all of your workouts come into one graph. I've got it set on last 180, just so you get it. That's a nice little 6-month snapshot right there. But that is your must. Have it set to all workout types. You can select it to just be swim, just be bike, blah, blah, blah. If you're a Nordic skier, then you would just have that. I have it on all. So there you go. You also want to have your TSS by the week, and again, all workout types. Your distance by week, bike, swim, and that's duration. I will have run down there. I've just got it stacked incorrectly. Sorry about that. But there's my distance by week in bike, swim, and run, and then my duration by week of all workout types. So essentially that's a snapshot of what am I averaging per week in training volume. And it's something that I look at with people. So for example, I might take someone that is coming back to me off program or whatever, and I'll go, okay, what's the duration over the last 3 months that they've been holding as a workout? And it might be 7 or 8 hours, and they say, right, I want to do an Ironman. Well, I wouldn't go in and put in a 15-hour training week in the first week. Cool. So it's just an example of where I look at this stuff and I go, what is this particular athlete holding as a little snapshot? For you guys playing along at home, if you want to become a top age grouper, so let's use someone like George Stemmer as an example. Sorry, George, just as someone that's trying to raise the bar and lift their game. There are certain measurements that over a period of time that we've learned from a sports science point of view that are earmarks for the success of a top age grouper. One of them is to see 1,000 TSS a week as an average. As you can see, I'm averaging 609. Okay, so I am nowhere near the top of my game, which would be no fucking newsflash to anybody. Similarly, if we go to, let me bring run up to here, and so we've got them all together. We'll put that one there. So we go swim, bike, run. Similarly for the swim, if you want to be a top age grouper, you're averaging 10K a week. I'm averaging 3.7. Go me. On the bike, you want to be a top age grouper, average 250K a week. I'm averaging 184. And on the run, you want to be a top age grouper, average 50. I'm averaging 26. Cool. So I'm in no shape, nowhere. And you will see that when we look at the PMC chart. I'm using my chart to show you someone that's cruising along. Alrighty. So those three charts, duration, as I've already sort of told you, if you want to go 1,000 TSS and have your duration there by types, you're going to get about 16 to 17 hours per week of training. Alrighty, just so you know. For those of you who are like, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not a top age grouper. I'm just coming back on whatever. So let's use someone like Nick Stanners. I hope you don't mind, Nick. I'll use you as an example of someone who's like, well, that makes no reference to me, or even someone like Dave Rowe. What you can do is you can have a look at your last 3 months, and you might be seeing, you're going to see an average of say 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. So what you can do to get an even better thing is you can go just the last month across all fly and close, and you're going to get 9. Obviously with the move and everything, I'm going downhill to 0 over the next few weeks. Or if and you can sort of see the increases as you go. You can. It's very, very powerful. You can compare it to last year. You can have it the last year, which is this is the clear one that I like to look at, all the way through. So muck around with those yourselves to find what you like. As a snapshot, I have all of you set at the last 3 months. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Let me just, where's my chat box? Okay, good. We're all happy. Great. Let me just have a look at my notes. Okay, let's dig into actual TSS scoring. There are a couple of other things, peak power charts down here. I might use Laura's account for a couple of those. Actually, why don't we dive into Laura's now, and I'll show you what basically a top age grouper looks like. Do we call Laura a pro, people? I don't know. Are we calling Laura a pro these days? Laura, what's your thought on that?
Isn't that a preferred start?
Oh, that's right. You're in the mates wave with a preferred start. That's right. Okay, so if we drag Laura's one across and we pop her onto the last 3 months, so you guys can get a little bit of a sense of what your top age groupers look like. Laura's averaging 19 hours a week. She's averaging 12K a week of swimming, 270K a week on the bike, and 48K of running. So there, she's pretty much spot right bang on the numbers, as I said, that you would see for a top age grouper. Depending on strengths and weaknesses, you'll see higher or lower in whatever. Like, so if I have a look at someone like Alex Horton, for example, who's here on the call, I won't do this to you, Alex, who's an incredibly strong runner and not a great bike rider, we'll slowly, he's the sort of person that I'll look at those bike numbers and I'll go, right, we need to get that bike going right up. And this is the sort of thing that I'll look at as a snapshot for Alex's training and how he's progressing on the bike over that period of time. Similarly with Laura, you will see the average TSS 1,075. So as I said, once you're getting over that 1,000 regularly, you're right in the box seat of being very, very good. You'll see Laura's chart gets consistently good. This is pre-COVID, and then she's leveled off. Now, Laura's a good example. If we look at the last 90 days of Laura, by the way, just as a little aside, I'm going to dig more into this and I'll use Sally's chart as an example, but this is how powerful you can see. This is Laura pre-busso, big workouts here pre-busso. There is busso, and there's your corresponding drop off. That drop, that blue line, is a drop in fitness, right? Which is understandable. Laura's highest peak over the last 180 days is right here, 2 weeks before busso. Alrighty, so that's the sort of thing that you'll see as you start getting correct data. You'll start to see sort of little images where we can peak, and I program so that you can do this. So I run a running forecast of the TSS stuff that you'll see for exactly this sort of thing. Now, if we use Laura's for one last thing, which is, well, if we use it even just for the last 28 days, this is my goal with all of you at the moment. That blue line, just see how straight that blue line is? All that blue line is telling you is that Laura is just holding her current fitness. Cool. She is just holding steady. She's not doing anything crazy. She's just lighting it up. She's basically hitting the sessions, and it's just all staying nice and steady as we go. She's just holding that blue line is your fitness. The yellow line is what's called your training stress balance, or how fresh you are. And the pink line that you've got here is a measure of her rolling fatigue. Okay, it's called, if I hover that there, you'll see it's called ATL. That stands for acute training load. Now that is a rolling progressive score of the last 7 days, whereas her fitness, CTL, is chronic training load, and that is a rolling score of 42 days of fitness. Alrighty, so the blue line is your best indicator of how fit an athlete is at this current point in time. So if we use me as an example, again, as what I don't like to see, so I'm a great example of what we don't want to see at this point. You have a look at my blue line, see how it's just slowly trending down. It's just slowly slipping away. My mediocrity is becoming paramount. Cool. I can hear you, Laura. Even though you're muted, I can still hear you cackling from here. But there's a good example. So one of the key things that I'm, and it's important for you guys to get the snapshot and look at that and go, what's coach looking at? That is one of the first things that I will look at when I'm sitting down with an athlete and I'm sort of chatting, is I'll look at that blue line and I'll say, are they holding their fitness? Are they holding where they currently should be at? There's an example. If I was coaching me, I would sort of say, well, you know, so you're a fucking disaster. Give it away. Take up darts. All righty. We will come back to a little bit of stuff with the TSS, but what I want to dive into, I might use Sally's account and we'll dive into what TSS is and how you come to get those scores. And there's an example of, you'll get to see why Sally is called sensational. She's actually getting fitter. You can see her line is actually going up because she's just so bloody amazing. Now I've got a question from someone. Frankie, I won't say that out loud, Frankie, with everyone. That's okay. We'll leave that one between us. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into Sal's calendar. Now this is where it starts getting a little bit tricky with the maths and that sort of thing. So if you've got questions as we go, Just grab me and ask me. Alrighty, someone just had a question and I just lost it. My apologies. Yeah. Yes. Yes, thank you for that. Sharing my screen. Yes. Okay, so TSS stands for Training Stress Scores. Alrighty, essentially what we're trying to do is it's duration and intensity combined to give you a fatigue score for each workout. 100 TSS, the algorithm works that 100 TSS would be equal to 1 hour at your best possible race pace. Riding, so first of all, on a sliding scale of accuracy with TSS, riding with a power meter and a heart rate monitor on is the most accurate TSS measurements that you will get. Running with properly, with a proper GPS watch and a heart rate monitor and zones in your zone section that I showed you earlier that are accurately calibrated to your watch will give you very accurate TSS data. And thirdly, swimming TSS, even Training Peaks says swimming TSS is hit and miss. So I'm going to give you a couple of parameters around swimming TSS, and we can use Sally's because hers is very accurate. I'll just see what the question is. How meaningful is TSS we get at the end of a Zwift ride? Is it the same? Yes, great question. Yes, the TSS that you get in Zwift, because it's pulling power data, is very accurate. Anytime you're using power, your TSS scores are going to be very, very accurate. Cool. Plus you've got duration and intensity. What you need to make sure is again, in your zones, that your power is accurate. Okay. And it constantly, as you know, your FTP constantly changes. I would be looking at your zones monthly if I was you. And I know I do anyway. So particularly if you're on program, I'm looking at them monthly and updating them. Part of the reason with the monthly Zoom calls, as you guys who have already done them know, is that we go through all those scores and we go, is this accurate? Is this heart rate accurate? That sort of thing. But with the Zwifting, wear a chest-based heart rate monitor. Actually, for all of your sessions, if you want more accurate TSS data, wear a chest-based, a chest strap heart rate monitor, not a wrist one. Alrighty, you want to measure as close as you possibly can to the source. And obviously power will give you very accurate metrics. The swimming, if you remember the premise that 100 TSS is 1 hour swimming or running or riding as hard as you possibly can, then 75 TSS for most swims that go 1 hour and 3K is going to be about right. But you can see Sal here has swum 1 hour, swum 3K at an average of 2 minutes per 100 for 52 TSS. That's probably a little bit low, but she's lacking any heart rate data. So all it's going to pull from then is her zones. Cool. Yeah, Laura has said recommend a heart rate monitor for swimming that's waterproof. The Garmin swim ones are amazing. The Garmin Tri ones are also amazing. That's the one I use, and they're very, very good. So if we have a quick look at Sal's zones, why she's getting such low heart rate, such low swim scores, I would suggest swim speed, bang. It's probably a little bit off. So we'd probably just make that, particularly if she's in a wetty in the open water, we're going to bump that down a little bit. Threshold speed. I'm going to go 80-20 for swimming. We're going to calculate that and we're going to apply it. That's automatically, just putting that more accurately to where she is going to give her better TSS scores as we go through. They are definitely a little bit low. You can see she's getting 40 swim TSS here for 36 minutes, which would be pretty accurate. But then she'll swim for another 25 minutes and only get 30 more TSS. She really should be about 70. So you guys can manually override any of this stuff if you don't have the heart rate monitor with you. But as a guide, 1 hour of swimming, 3K, unless you're hemo, or the fridge is going to be about 70, 75 TSS. Alrighty. As a bracket or as a range for you guys to know, aerobic scoring goes up to about 65. So anything that you feel like is aerobic will be from 35 to 65 over an hour. 65 to 85 will be your moderate pace, and anything from 85 to 100 is going to be hard as a scoring system. Alrighty. So you'll see some of Sal's stuff here. This is accurate. See how this says HRTSS? This is the least accurate way that you can do it, but if that's all you've got, that's all you've got. It's pulling just heart rate data. Okay, so she's got no power meter. So that's why that score will be a little bit low. Generally for an aerobic ride, as I've just sort of said, 65 for an hour would be an aerobic ride. She's ridden for 2 hours. So we would actually manually override that and call it about 120. So she's missing about 40 TSS there. Okay. Now where that matters is when we come back to the dashboard, you're going to see these scores that she's getting are actually lower than what they should be. So in actual fact, Sal's fitness is actually higher than probably what she's even put in here. Does that make sense to everyone? Because she's actually under-reporting her TSS. So it's a good thing for you guys to remember that rationale, that 30 to 65 being aerobic, 65 to 85 being your moderate pace. Think if you're doing 70.3 workout, that sort of thing, and 85 to 100 if you're doing those max hard efforts over an hour. Cool bananas? Okay, PMC chart. So I want to talk more about this PMC chart now. We'll bring up Sal's. What I'm going to do is I'm going to piss off the group chat. We'll make Sal's. What I want to do is show you guys how to peak. Any questions at this point, just fire them in. Apply and close. And I'm going to show you Sal's peak to Taupo, where she had a great race. Sal, just come off mute for me. Are you off mute? Where is she? Where is that glamour? Sal, unmute yourself. There you go. I'll unmute you. Okay, you're off mute.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll go through this together. Now, Taupo, where did you finish in Taupo?
First.
First. Geez, you must be sick of that. And that was a good race for you, yes? I think I remember us saying it was a very successful race. Yes?
It was.
Yeah. Okay, great. So this is a good one for us to use. Okay. Again, we look at Taupo. This is Taupo the day here. Alrighty. And if you remember that training stress balance is your form, or in other words, your taper, your return to fitness. You're feeling good. You're coming back into freshness again. That little corresponding drop there, you'll see the acute training load is dropping. So in other words, she is detraining, she's freshening up, and you'll get a corresponding yellow spike at the other end, which is her form. She's coming good. Obviously, this is super common because she's peaking for the race. That's the actual race there. Again, similarly to what you saw with Laura's Busso Ironman, the highest peak in her preparation. So here is her preparation all the way through, and you can see it's just constantly going up, 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 up. That's her just constantly going up, 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 getting faster and fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter. This is unsustainable. Yes, this sort of thing. You cannot keep going and going and going and going and going, just so you know. You can do this 2 to 3 times a year. 2 if you're Sally, 3 if you're Laura. It's genetic. Yaniv or George or Alex could do 3. Once you're sort of over 40, twice a year. as you know. A lot of this data, by the way, will confirm to you the bleeding obvious. So if you see things that don't make sense to you, oftentimes it'll just be that your data is out. So you'll see the highest peak in Sal's run into Taupo is 2 weeks before the event, which, as you guys know in your programs, is when we do our last big simulation block 2 Sundays before the race, and then we start our taper. So you can see the corresponding line that goes down as she drops down into taper. You can see the last 3 or 4 days there is almost nothing. 2 days before the race, I like to give a rest day. 3 days before, she's going through a really, really simple 1 hour brick. The day before, rolling the arms over in the swim. And then you've got the massive spike, which is the race day. Cool. I got the taper wrong, just so you know. And Sal's a little bit of a tricky one to get right because she's so fit all the time. And so, well, I don't know how to say it without pissing in your pocket too much, but it's hard to get you right because you're so good. And it's so, and you get everything right. But I wanted to make sure that she tapered well. Just so you guys know, again, to throw some data at you, you'll see the form is 36. I love to see people hitting the race between 15 to 25 in the positive. That's generally, again, shown to be where someone is like, oh, I'm ready to go. Over 25, we've generally backed them off too much. Under 15, we could have freshened them up a little bit more. And it's super different for different people, but that's, as a general rule, I like to hit that mark, just so you guys know. Obviously, if TSB is 0, this is a perfect training equilibrium. You are right where you want to be if your TSB is 0. But that's almost impossible to do when you're building fitness, because fitness is all about stress, adaptation, stress, adaptation, stress, adaptation. And this is why this blue line, as a rolling 42-day constant, has little mini peaks and troughs in it. Yes, you can see there's a peak there. That would have been a big day. What's that? That's a Sunday the 12th. I've probably given her 150K on the bike, right? So that you've got a little bit of a bump. You can see the corresponding acute training load bump right there. The next day, it drops all the way back down. That would have been the Monday. She's got a day off, or she's in the gym moving some weights around and that sort of thing. Okay, but you can have a look at the training stress balance is -18. So on the flip side, as I said to you, for tapering and hitting a race day, we want +15 to +25. On the flip side, if you get deeper than -30, you are set for an absolute fall. Okay, so there's some really, really good numbers for you to sort of remember. And the only time that we'll see -30 is in bike camps, or maybe if you're training for an Ironman and we're hitting a really, really big sort of block. But most of the time when I'm building the fitness slowly, we're going to see, remember that the fitness line is 42 days. Okay, so it's a month-long sort of thing where we're building and building and building slowly, and you're getting those little peaks, little troughs where I'm sort of stressing Sal out, and then I say, okay, have a breather, and then we stress again, okay, and up there goes the blue line just a bit, and then we drop it off, and then up it goes again. And this is why it takes 16 weeks to build towards a key event and have a great race like Sal did. For numbers for you to throw at, you're really only going to get per week about 5 points on your fitness CTL or on your chronic training load. You can't really get much more than 5 points in a week. Cool. And you certainly wouldn't go looking for that week in, week out. All righty. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's your race leading into that, and I could have pulled. There's a ton of people whose data I could have pulled, who all look exactly the same, because when I do the programming, for a lot of you, although I haven't sort of mentioned it to you, I'll program based on TSS scoring. So for those that can handle it, we're always looking at around 1,000 TSS. For those who can't, I'm looking at what you can do, and then we're increasing that. Okay, so someone like Nick Stanners, for example, where the running TSS needs to be quite low and needs to be just inched along. Whereas the bike TSS, we can throw it all in. That weekly TSS makeup for someone like Nick Stanners is going to be 600 or 700, but the run TSS will be like 150 to 200. The bike TSS, we can throw it in there because she's super bike strong, got some running injuries, and this is where the tricky balance between each of you comes in to give you the same score or to have your charts look like that. So that sort of dovetails me back to the original point about good and bad data. If your zones aren't set up properly, if you're not wearing a chest-based heart rate strap, if you don't use a power meter, all of those things work against you. There are ways to get around all of them. And as I said, if you let's say you're out on the road bike, so a lot of you don't have power meters on your road bikes, for example. So let's say you ride a waterfall, you do that 3-hour 90K ride. Most of the time, depending on who's there, you can call it an aerobic ride. I would definitely be wearing a chest-based heart rate strap. So you would get the heart rate TSS based on that. And you would be looking at 70 TSS per hour, okay, for that ride. Unless it's one of those, you know, for half a dozen times a year, we'll have one of those waterfall rides where I just then send an email out to everyone and go, you pork chops, what are you doing? So unless you have one of those, most of the time you guys are quite good, especially at the moment where you don't have a bunch to sit on and you're all going to do the work yourself. It's a really, really good opportunity to get all of your zones and everything right, because you guys are actually not training in a bunch. So it's a perfect opportunity for you guys to get this stuff sorted properly. So 70 TSS per hour for a 3-hour ride is going to be absolutely spot on, just so you know. Does that make sense? Any questions? Let me just have a quick look at my note. I'm almost done from my end, which is probably a fucking relief to most of you. Yeah, that's good for me. So I'll throw it out to you guys. Let me, yeah, go. Anyone? Anyone at all? Bueller? Bueller? Great, awesome. All right, I can go and have a beer then. 45 minutes, I've done very well. I'd like a round of applause for me for not talking too much. So are there any, I don't feel like there are some advanced things. You first of all go to, if you've got any questions about it later, like, so if you're having a look and you go, oh, the first thing is your zones. Everything gets back to, in your profile, making sure those zones are set up. The second thing, everything gets back to every single session you do, gathering as much data as you can towards the performance that you're doing. Okay, so aerobic running, for example, zone 2 running. Oh, as a segue to zone 2 running, pet hate of mine. So let me drop this out. Zone 2 running. Please make sure you run in zone 2. And when you do run in zone 2, oh, hang on, I've got questions. Sorry, guys, I keep missing that. So do you suggest from Frankie that we set up our charts and then discuss? Yes, absolutely. Set them up. For anyone on program, I'm basically, for the guys that are on program, I've set up a separate thing where I'm going through and I'm chatting through these. For anyone else, I'm more than happy to do it. So it's just because I'm following the programmed athletes day in and day out, because that's my job, I'm getting those guys sorted. But if anyone else wants me to do it with them, please just grab me. More than happy to sit there and say to you that this is, you know, this is how it should look. So that's no problem at all. Yes, so I've taken you through the charts that I use. If you want to have one more quick look at them, your performance management chart, make sure it's on all workout types. Your TSS by week, make sure that is on all workout types. Distance, have it on 90 days. I feel like the 90 days is a really nice snapshot. It gives you 3 months is a good idea of what's going on. Okay, swim, bike, run, duration by all workout. Now, if you don't have a power meter, then don't worry about the power profile. The peak power if we've got time later on, people want to chat about that, this is very, very valuable to follow. Okay. Can you talk through the fatigue, the pink line? Yes, I can. So if we go back up to, who have I currently got up? Me. So let's get me off here because no one wants to see that bloody shit. Let's bring up the mighty, the amazing Sally Taggart, who's not loading. Oh, yes, she is. There we are. And I'm going to make her. Okay. Let me drop that out. The pink line. Okay. So basically, your pink line is your acute training load. Do a big session, you get a big spike on your pink line. Okay. It's as simple as that. It takes into account the last 7 days as opposed to the CTL, which takes into account 42 days, as I said. So if we have a look, all of these peaks, right, are hard sessions. And you'll see down the bottom is a smaller movement corresponding blue shift. So these are all, they're all going to correspond to big days. So there's a Sunday, the Sunday 3 days before Christmas. I've probably got it doing, we were probably starting the festive 500, okay, which Sal does every year. So you're going to see another one, and then you're going to see another one on the following Sunday. So with someone like Sal, you're going to see a lot of corresponding, you know, there's another one on another Sunday, because this is when we're getting the 4, 5, 6 hour bike rides that Sal was doing in the lead-in. And then the important thing to understand with the ATL is that you'll see that there's a corresponding on the TSB, that stands for training stress balance, or they call it form now. They used to call it freshness, which I sort of preferred freshness. It means literally how fresh is the athlete feeling. You can see after that ride, that's left Sal minus 24. It's a big day. Without looking at it, Sunday the 29th, it would have been a 5-hour ride, no doubt, without looking at it. If we have a look at the yellow line down the bottom, it directly corresponds, cool, to just a bottoming. Actually, that's not the one. It would be this one. Directly corresponds to a bottoming out. Cool, it's that one there. And you'll see, as you can see, these two move pretty much as a mirror of each other. Flog yourself in training, your form or your freshness is going to drop. And as I said, your guidelines for that is if you're in the minus 30 too often for too long a period of time, or you go significantly over the minus 30 and you know that your TSS scoring is accurate, you are heading for disaster. Alrighty. The flip side is also true. When we're coming into a race, plus 15 to plus 25 for our form means we are peaking, we are fresh, we are ready. If you are not getting ready for a race and you are plus 15, then you are a bludgeon goose. So that's also another way that I can sort of give people a razz up, is I'll have a look at their form and I'll go, hang on a second, you're about 12 weeks out from a race and I'm seeing plus 22, then I know that they're not hitting sessions the way that they should. So the PMC chart is super valuable for me to grab as a snapshot for how people are going right then and there. Yes, cool. Does that answer that? Okay, great. Any other questions? Have I got one? I think I might have one. Yes, chat one. Goodness gracious. Oh no, yes, it answers it. Great, thank you. Cool. Okay, well, I feel like I've covered everything in my notes. Let me give me just 1 second to just have a look that I have. Tau 0. Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy. I feel like I've covered everything off. Again, if there's a couple of takeaways from it, make sure your zones are set up properly. If you've got a power meter, you must have premium. Simple as that. If you're on Zwift, get premium. Triathlon Australia, or I know Martin's here and he's in in Switzerland, but most of the training federations will give you a discount for Training Peaks. Training Peaks is pretty much in bed with every triathlon federation around the world. Even if you don't have a code, it's like $120. It is probably the best investment that you can make for your training that there is. It will then give you access to all of those charts. If you aren't on premium, you won't have access to most of those charts, which is not a big deal because on Zoom chat, you can see them all when I share the screen with you. But as I said, you need to be across this stuff. Most of you guys are motivated, dedicated athletes that want to be coached properly. So that's a given that you would want to be coached properly, that you would have access to the data that I see and that you can make rolling decisions yourself based on how you're feeling. Also bear in mind that it's not an exact science. If you feel great and it's telling you you're in a hole, go forth and conquer. Use it as a guide. That's how I use it. I always, for me, still the best measure of how an athlete is feeling is rate of perceived exertion and chatting to the athlete. How are you feeling? Yeah, great. Yeah, how was that workout? Yeah, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Great, you're going well. Let's adjust this. Let's adjust a little bit of that. It's still, communication is still the best way. But as I said, I'm not going to be able to look a lot of you guys in the eye as often as I would like to. So it's on you guys to make sure that a lot of this data is accurate so that I can see it and kind of go, whoa, Alex is about to really fall into a hole and da-da-da and whatever. So you've got 2 weeks to set all this up. It's about 16 weeks out from most of the races, 16 to 18 weeks out from most of the races. Certainly for us in Australia. I'm not sure what will happen for you, Martin, but fingers crossed. So now is the time that you get it lined up so that it's going to, as you know, it's going to take 42 days for correct data to start showing. Cool. It won't start showing next week because it's a rolling fitness score. So if you look back through your data now and you're unsure, grab me. How does this look? How does that look? As I said, use those guides, 50 to 30 to 65 for aerobic, 65 to 85 for moderate intensity pace, 85 and plus for really giving it to yourself. And you'll be on the right track with your fitness. Cool bananas? Any reason why, Frankie, any reason? I'll speak to you separately, Frankie. I'm not quite sure. It is probably because of the training peaks and troughs with you. Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate me not standing here just talking to myself. So it makes such a difference. And it's very nice to see some of you, not all of you, some of you. Don't start me, Laura Brown.
Love your work, Coach. Love your work.
Oh, you're a good You can all come off mute and bag me out now. That's totally fine. I'll hang here. If anyone's got questions, they can ask. Ash and Olive haven't come home yet, so until they come home, I got nothing to do.
We want to see them.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
How rude.
I want to see Ollie.
I'll stop sharing Sal's training account now. Sal, thanks you for that. Laura, thank you for letting me. Data's private, and you guys were like, yeah, what do I care? You know, so I'll hang around. If anyone's got any questions, great, you got me. Grab me, and if you don't, please.
You don't want to show them my data, Coach?
Yeah, mine's interesting too.
Yeah, I thought I'd choose. Funnily enough, you'll see that I'll choose people's data that are the most consistent.
Like you're choosing.
Yeah, I like to choose athletes' data rather than professional.
Comparison would be good. Yeah. Comparison.
That's so much.
I think you're probably comparing enough, Laura and Emma.
I love it. All right.
Recorded.
Come on, mate. You guys haven't been drinking so much. See you, Sally. Thank you.
Bye.
With me.
All right, catch up.
Thanks, Coach.
See you guys. Thank you so much. If anyone's got any questions, I'm here. Go for it.
I'm going to call you separately, just go through it all, because I couldn't get it up and running on my laptop.
Okay, no problem, buddy. Yeah, more than happy. Just you should have been receiving the Calendly. Oh no, I left you out of it. So the guys that are on program have been receiving calendar invites to book in Zoom chats with me. Let me send you one. And
that's right. And you can. I appreciate it. I'm not an athlete. I'm just a ring in. That's fine.
See you, Nick. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All righty. See you later. See you, Brett.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Coach. Thanks, Coach. Love your work.
See you, mate. See you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Ciao.